It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Hint Hive, amplifying women's voices. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, queen bee of this hive, psychotherapist, and life coach devoted to empowering women. Today we're diving into something that's both fierce and tender. The power of going no contact. You know, those moments when saying enough is enough isn't just about setting a boundary, it's about reclaiming your damn life. It's about drawing a line in the sand that says, my peace, my health, and my freedom come first. And let's be clear, that takes courage. It takes guts. And it takes knowing that your worth is not measured by how much you endure from other people. Okay, let's be real. Cutting someone out of your life is no small thing. We have been conditioned, especially as women, to be the peacekeepers, the fixers, the nurturers. We're taught that loyalty, forgiveness, and keeping the family together are top priorities. And let me tell you, that whole keeping the family together part is how I got myself on the receiving end of no contact. But I'll talk about that later. Society praises us for being endlessly patient, endlessly forgiving, endlessly available. But here's the truth. Sometimes the healthiest, bravest thing that you can do for yourself is walk away. No explanations, no guilt, just freedom. No contact isn't just about ending relationships. It's about redefining how you allow people to treat you. It can apply to toxic exes, manipulative friends, family members who refuse to respect your boundaries, or even workplace dynamics that cross the line. It's not about being cold or heartless. It's about protecting your mental health, your energy, and your peace. And believe me, peace is priceless. So, when is no contact really actually the healthiest choice? Let's break this down with some real-world examples. So if you are in a relationship with persistent abuse or manipulation, this is one of those things where maybe you need to consider going no contact. If someone is emotionally, physically, or psychologically abusive, cutting ties may be the only path to safety. Abuse thrives in secrecy and access. And no contact is a way of shutting the door on that cycle. And let's talk about those people who continuously disrespect boundaries. If you have set clear boundaries, and I'll go more into that a little bit later, and they keep getting steamrolled, it's a sign that the relationship is not reciprocal. Healthy relationships respect the word no. Now, don't get me wrong. People make mistakes, and it's important to allow them to learn and grow as they get used to your boundaries. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the absolute refusal to respect the boundaries that you have clearly set up. And then let's talk about that person who is chronically negative or controlling. If being around someone constantly drains you or belittles you or tries to control your choices, ladies, you are allowed to step away. You do not owe anyone access to your energy. And this one can be a tough one. Let's talk about cycles of hurt. If the relationship, and again, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, this is a relationship with anyone. If that relationship feels like a revolving door of hurt, apologies, promises, and disappointment without ever seeing any changes, then breaking the cycle may require a full exit. And this isn't just a matter of bad vibes, because research actually shows that toxic relationships raise cortisol, the stress hormone, over long periods. And elevated cortisol weakens your immune system, affects digestion, and increases risks of anxiety and depression. Translation: staying in constant contact with toxic people doesn't just hurt emotionally, it literally harms your body. And that is the appropriate use of the word literally, may I add. But that's a rant I promise I won't go on. But anyway, science is loud and clear on this. Your peace is non-negotiable. But, and this is where it gets a little uncomfortable, we've got to be honest. Going no contact isn't always the healthiest route. I do not know the appropriate pronunciation of that word, so please forgive me. Sometimes going no contact can actually backfire if we use it for the wrong reasons. So if it's used as avoidance, like if you're cutting people out to dodge discomfort instead of addressing your own patterns or accountability, that is not the healthiest use of going no contact, because growth often requires us to face hard conversations, not just ghost people who challenge us. And then if you haven't tried communication first, then maybe going no contact is a bit premature. Because sometimes a difficult, honest conversation can repair the connection. I've had many of them in several of my relationships. Because the way I look at things from both a personal and professional therapeutic point is that relationships deserve at least one real attempt at clarity, unless, and this is a big one, the situation is unsafe. As a therapist, I always encourage communication and problem solving first. That's what I do. That's what I've been trained to do. Cutting someone off without trying to resolve a conflict is not healthy at all, unless, of course, there are safety concerns. I will repeat that 1,000 times if I have to. I mean, that should go without saying, but in today's world, words are often twisted, and so I'm just covering my own butt there. Safety is a non-negotiable for me. And then if you are cutting someone off and it's rooted in fear instead of self-respect, maybe you need to reconsider and think about this a little bit more. If the move to no contact is coming from panic or guilt or just impulse rather than thoughtful clarity, thoughtful reflection, it might need a second thought. Because true no contact comes from empowerment, not from running scared. And I will emphasize this, no contact is a tool, not a weapon. It should come from a place of empowerment, not punishment. Think of it as building a protective boundary, not throwing a grenade. And I will say this entire subject is not just a professional topic for me. It is deeply personal. Because I've been on the receiving end of this one. I have been disowned by family members and friends over the course of my lifetime. And I'm not just talking ghosting. I'm talking flat out disowned. And most of it has been because of who I am as a person. Someone who doesn't believe in party line politics, or who has the nerve to think for herself and not submit to a man's rule. People don't like that about me. And I'm fine with that. Granted, I think you're weak as hell if you can't handle that I can think for myself and not be molded into your stupid image of who you think I should be. I think you are beyond weak if you disown me just because I don't share your religious and political beliefs. Because whether I agree with your beliefs or not, I respect your right to have them. And the fact that you cannot respect my rights in return is ridiculous. So those are not the people that I lose sleep over. I'm telling you, the list is long, but not very distinguished, of some of the people who have cut me out for ridiculous reasons. I mean, here's the thing. You know who I am, right? Like, all these people in my life, they knew who I was. I didn't change. But the second I don't conform, I don't know. I've been handed my walking papers. Again, being assertive sometimes, always has consequences. Sometimes they're not so great, and other times they are. But let me tell you, I am good with that. I am good with all of the people who walked away from me because I won't submit to a man, or because I don't think that your orange clown that you worship is the next coming of Christ. I am so good with you walking out of my life. I won't walk out of yours. I mean, unless you're abusive to me and I tell you to stop and you don't. Because again, I think that would be appropriate if you can't respect my boundaries, and, but just disagreeing over things, I'm not going to cut you out. Because as a therapist, that's not who I am. But it's been done to me. And like I said, I'm good with losing the people that don't really matter in the first place. But there is one person, however, whose no contact boundary has cut me to my very core. I am not quite sure in this very moment how much I'm going to share, so I'm just going to kind of go with it. I do feel comfortable sharing some vague details because this person does not listen to this podcast, and therefore I am absolutely not being passive-aggressive in sharing my story. And for anyone who knows me, I don't do passive-aggressive. I'm either assertive or aggressive, depending on which you deserve. But I'm not going to go too deep into these details because, again, I am going to protect this person's privacy, as well as my own, because it's, still an ongoing thing that hurts me. And so, like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into it. Anyway, I am making a long story even longer, so let's get back to my point. I have been disowned by someone who I love, and it hurts me every single day. Because I owned my mistakes to this person. I apologized for the mistakes that I made decades ago when I didn't know better. I had a lot of stuff going on in my 20s, and I wasn't always the best version of myself. And so I don't even want to say it like that. I didn't know better. Some of the things that I said and did, I didn't know better. I was simply following society's rules and expectations of me in this particular role that I had. But I when I had a conversation with this person, I reflected on how I could have done better with the knowledge that I have now. And I still do. I still reflect on that. I reflect on how I could have done better. I wish that I could be in this person's life and show up for them then the way I do now, because it would be very different. But I can tell you at the time, I did not have the tools that I have today. So I honestly did the best that I could at the time, but it wasn't good enough. And I do not blame the other person for that at all. And when this person shared their experience, I fully apologized and owned it. But then later, in my awkwardness to try and have a relationship with them, a deeper relationship, the relationship that I wanted to have, a very close relationship, I allowed my inner therapist to take over, and I tried to push too hard for some family unity. And this person actually tossed that in my face and said I was so desperate to have a certain family dynamic that I pushed too hard. And you know what? They were right. I was desperate to have my family be a certain way because I love them so effing much. I cannot even express how much I love my family. And I wanted to problem solve and talk things through to make everything better. And as the words were coming out of my mouth the last time I was around this person, I heard myself and I was warning myself in my head, stop it, stop it. They're not ready. They're not ready to be this close unit that you are so desperate to have. And I couldn't stop. All right, I'm making it sound way more dramatic than it is. It wasn't even like that in the conversation. It's what I was feeling in the moment. I was feeling desperate and I was feeling like I was losing this person. And so I was just trying to make amends among all these different family relationships. I wanted this person to be better to this person, and I wanted this person to understand this person, and I just should have shut my frickin' mouth. I should have given it the time that it needed, and I didn't. And so that was considered by this person to be a boundary violation. This person who has since disowned me. And unfortunately, it was a boundary that I was unaware of because it was not communicated to me beforehand. Like I was never told, I guess I needed it to be kind of black and white, like don't try to fix things, right? Because I was trying to fix a relationship. I was not trying to trample an unspoken boundary. And I was not given a chance to seek clarification or to hear what the boundary even was. Because I can promise you, if I am told what your boundaries are, I will not ever knowingly violate them because I have been violated with boundaries, with personal space, with... I'm not even going to go there today. I know what it feels like to not be respected, and I would never, ever in a million years do that to someone. And yet I somehow did. I am not a toxic person, and I am sad to be treated like one. At the age of 16, maybe you could have called me a toxic person if you were someone who wronged me, because like back then, if you hurt me, I was going to come back and I was going to hurt you a million times more. That's who I was. I've grown up since the age of 16. I'm in my 50s, for crying out loud. And so I'm not trying to make this all about me. I just want you to hear this side of no contact. This is why I believe you should fully and deeply consider going no contact. Because, for example, I am willing to make changes. If I'm not, then go ahead and disown me. Absolutely. Cut me right the hell out of your life if I do not respect a clear boundary that you've set. And like, if you're a man and you think that I should submit to your authority, then you should definitely disown me, because I will never respect that boundary. Never. But if you're someone who was hurt by my loving intention, talk to me instead of disowning me. You'll be surprised when I show you my heart and am allowed to explain my intentions. And so, if you are considering going no contact, all I ask is that you think it through. Because there are people out there willing to make changes and not repeat any action that you've deemed as hurtful. But, as is always the case, there are also piles of garbage out there that will continue to take advantage of you and steamroll all over your boundaries. Those are the people that do not deserve continued chances. You know, safety is my first and foremost go-to when considering no contact. But I also have a lot of empathy that causes me to look at things from a different angle. So, if you have given it thorough consideration, if you are involved in a very toxic relationship and you are considering no contact, let's talk about how to do it the healthy way. So, if you are feeling the pull toward going no contact with someone, here's how to do it in a healthy, empowered way. The first step is to get clear on the why. Your why. Why do you want to do this? Write it down. Journal it. Know exactly why you're doing this so that you don't second guess yourself later. And then the next step, if safe, communicate, right? Again, safety first. Communicate if it is safe to do so, because sometimes you can send a clear final message. I need space and I won't be continuing this relationship. If it's not safe, then skip this step. And to the person's credit who went no contact with me, they sent me a text message that said, you did not respect my boundary and I will be discontinuing this relationship indefinitely, or something along those lines. And that I appreciated. I truly appreciated, because don't leave me hanging. Either cut me off or don't. But don't leave me hanging. So I truly appreciated that very clear communication. And then the next step, block and delete. Yes, I just said it. Block them on your phone, your social media, your email. Cut off the channels that pull you back into that toxic cycle. Out of sight really does help create out of mind. And I can tell you, even on the receiving end of no contact, it is better for me to not see any reminders, right? Because that kind of hurts a little bit. But if you are in a toxic relationship, if you have abusive family or friends that do not respect your boundaries and you go no contact and you are very clear about it, block and delete them. Otherwise, you may get sucked right back in. And again, I only advise this because I have also advised you to think long and hard about this. So if you made this very difficult decision to go no contact, it's for a really damn good reason. So stick to it. Unless this person comes back and shows you proof of change. And then the next step, prepare for pushback. Because toxic people do not like losing access. Be ready for guilt trips, gaslighting, or even rage. And I'm sorry, but that's not your problem. It's theirs. And then the next step, expect grief. Even when you choose it, no contact can come with sadness, nostalgia, or even doubt. I'm telling you, give yourself permission to grieve the relationship while still honoring your decision. And then the next step, build your support system. Surround yourself with people who uplift you. Friends, therapists, coaches, or support groups. They can fill the emotional space left behind. And then the last piece, stick to your decision. No contact only works if it's consistent. Otherwise, you end up right back where you started. Consistency is your superpower here. Because remember, this is not about proving a point. It is about protecting your power. You know, I have such conflicting feelings about no contact, and it's not because I am on the receiving end of it. It's because I'm a therapist, and the therapist in me wants to solve the issue. The therapist in me wants people to learn and grow from their mistakes. And I'm not saying the person who goes no contact is making a mistake. I'm talking about the person who is on the receiving end of no contact. They need to learn from their mistakes. And so it makes me incredibly sad when there's a relationship that can't be healed, because I feel like I've devoted my life to helping people feel better and do better and grow and learn and be empowered. And so I almost it's hard as a therapist because sometimes you take things personally when you shouldn't. You take things as a personal failure. For example, if a couple comes to me for couples counseling and we just can't bridge the gap, we just can't make it work, that sucks. It sucks for me as a therapist to feel like I couldn't do my job. And so even doing this episode, I'm still so conflicted because I know that there are people out there who will just use it as an excuse to go no contact with someone without going through all the proper steps first of trying to repair things. Again, safety aside, I'm not talking about people in abusive relationships at all. But please understand that this is difficult, and at my age and in how I grew up and in my culture, it just going no contact wasn't a thing at all. And so I am trying really hard to readjust to the times, to understand and support that no contact is really important for things other than just physical safety. So I hope that all of you listening can appreciate how difficult this entire topic is for me, because I want to empower the crap out of all of you to do what's best for you while also being like, oh, but I wish I could help fix that relationship, right? But I want no contact for you, if you decide to do this, to be a shift towards empowerment. Because when you decide to go no contact, you're not just saying goodbye to someone else, you are saying hello to yourself. You are choosing clarity over confusion, peace over chaos, and self-respect over constant compromise. And even as I hear myself say those words, I'm like, that's not selfish. It's sacred. And I support no contact when I look at it in that lens. Because every single time that you hold firm in your boundaries, you reinforce the belief that your well-being matters. And it does. And let's be real, when women unapologetically prioritize themselves, it is freaking revolutionary because it goes against the very fabric of what we have been taught our entire lives. So, if you're listening and you're on the fence about someone in your life, ask yourself, do they feed my growth or do they starve it? Do I feel safe and supported or drained and diminished? Your body and your intuition already know the answer, so trust them. All right. This week's quote is from author Cheryl Strayed, and she says, "You don't have to walk through this world on your knees, bent to someone else's demands. You are allowed to stand tall, walk away, and choose yourself." Reflect on that one for a minute. Because choosing yourself is not selfish. It is sacred. It's an act of rebellion in a culture that tells women that our value is tied to how much we sacrifice. All right, my badass listeners, that's a wrap for today's episode of the Hint Hive. And if this spoke to your soul, take a moment to reflect. Is there a relationship in your life that's costing you more than it's giving you? And what would happen if you chose your peace instead? And if this episode resonated, share it with a friend who might need the reminder that cutting ties can sometimes be the ultimate act of self-love. Put it on your socials, tag me, help spread the message that women do not have to stay connected to what harms them. And if you're having a hard time making this decision to go no contact or not, reach out to me. Let's work through it together. I can be very unbiased, obviously, because I've been on the receiving end of what I am advocating for people in the right situations. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Unapologetic Empowerment. Reviews and ratings help amplify these conversations even further. So if you've got a moment, leave some love for this hive. Until next time, my gals, keep standing tall, keep choosing yourself, and keep amplifying your voice. You are worth it. You always have been, and you always will be. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.